keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. Ooh. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only go.
What's going on, guys? Jay Cam back with another video, and today I'm going to be looking at Daniel Jeremiah's new big board that he just brought out today. He adjusted a little bit of rankings. I'm going to try to fly through it, not take too long on it. But before we get into it, please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agree or disagree with that I talk about in here, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content I'm going to be putting out mainly all the way up until the draft here in a couple of weeks. So jump into this. This is his 4.0. Obviously, some guys are going to be rising up and falling down. I feel like mainly here at the top, we're not going to talk about it too much because it's mostly the same guys. Abdul Carter, I agree. He's probably the best player in the draft, in my opinion. I think he's going to end up going to Cleveland, number 2 overall, but he pretty much has all the dominant edge traits that you would want. He's been compared to Micah Parsons coming out of Penn State, that's pretty much the easy comparison. He does have that elite burst off the ball, and every single time you watch him play, especially when he was at Penn State, he always somehow ended up around the football. Whether it was him making the tackle or he somehow was able to chase it down from the backside, he's pretty much a beast, and I think he's the best player in this draft. Number 2, if you're looking at it regardless of position, Travis Hunter makes the most sense. He could play corner, he could play receiver. There's only a certain amount of teams I think are actually going to give him that opportunity to actually play both ways, corner and receiver. But I do think he's going to try to play both of them. If not, he's mainly going to play wide receiver, I would say, just because all the big money that he has. But it's mainly his ball skills that's really going to help him out at corner and be able to play at wide receiver. He's considered by most people the wide receiver 1 in this class and the cornerback 1 in this class. But it's mostly just his ball skills. He has one of the best ball skills in the draft, and he's could be at least used as a red zone target, as a guy that you lob it up to, and he's going to go get it over a couple other defenders. Number 3, definitely interesting, Ashton Jeanty. If you take away positional value, that's the main reason why he would fall in this class. But I think he's definitely either going to go number 6 to the Raiders. I think he could even go number 4 to the Patriots if the board ends up falling right. I think that's really where the draft's going to start. There's been a report by Adam Schefter today that maybe the Giants are starting to lean more towards not quarterback. So it's definitely going to get very interesting if the Giants don't go quarterback, because then Abdul Carter would probably go 2 to the Browns, and then Travis Hunter would go 3 to the Giants. So then does that open up the window? Would the Patriots go tackle? Or do they look at a guy like Ashton Jeanty and see him here? He's ranked number 3 overall, best player in the draft. So didn't you just take the best player on the board, regardless of the positional value with the running backs? But he's probably the best running back prospect that we've seen in years. I would say probably since Ezekiel Elliott, who went number 4 overall in his draft to the Cowboys. So it's regardless of positional value, he's up there. And then Mason Graham, most chalk pick to the Jaguars. Now, a little bit with Mason Graham, he can be kind of concerning with his size. He's a little bit undersized. He's a little bit stocky. He's not really that lengthy that you would look at, but he uses that to his advantage. He has outstanding leverage and instincts. He's always there around the ball. He's a good run defender. Even though with his short frame, he's able to have those bursts off the ball to be able to attack blockers and pretty much just move them off the line of scrimmage. And you can just look at it in his tape. He's one of the most productive guys in the draft. Every single time, if you go and watch it, he's making a play on the ball. Kind of like Abdul Carter. He's around the ball, and he just pretty much either uses his bull rush or a rip move to be able to get to the quarterback in pass rushing situations. So he's one of the better players in the draft, even though for his size. Now, here's an interesting one that's risen up the board a little bit for him is Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker, I think it's starting to wind down to where he's going to be a top 10 pick. It's most likely the positional fit is the Panthers. And this is what makes it so interesting in this draft, is because a lot of the guys You could see them go very high, or you could see them fall down the board, and either way, it would not shock you just because how closely these guys are ranked. Jalen Walker is one of those guys. I could see him going six to the Raiders. I wouldn't be shocked. I could see him go and fall all the way down to 17 to the Bengals, and I would not be shocked. That's what makes this year's draft so interesting is that all these guys are rated very similarly. But Jalen Walker, he's going to be drafted as an edge. I don't know what really to think about him, honestly. I'm not the biggest fan of him. He's a little bit undersized for the edge spot, but he does have a very quick burst off the edge. It's mostly his speed that he ends up having, and he ends up having a lot of power along with it. Just him being able to split from linebacker to edge, I could see it maybe a Raiders falling in love with him if Genty goes in four. If Genty goes at four to the Patriots, I could see the Raiders end up taking somebody like a Jalen Walker to be able to play that linebacker slash edge combo in the NFL for their team that Pete Carroll would end up liking. Tyler Warren's one of my favorite in this class. He's more like that George Kittle type build. It's interesting seeing both these guys. They're two totally different tight ends. They're pretty good blockers. Obviously, Warren's the better blocker, but one's more of that George Kittle line up on the end of the line of scrimmage type guy on Tyler Warren. One's more of that Brock Bowers line up in the slot, go be a quick target for the quarterback. Both these guys, no matter what team they go to, whether it's the Jets, Colts, Bears, they're going to be very good targets for whatever team ends up drafting them, and they're going to be very good NFL players. It's a very strong tight end class. It's it's kind of funny because if you look at it, the positional values that happen in the past where tight ends aren't valued very high, so they fall. Running backs aren't valued very high, so they fall. Those are the best positions in this draft class. That's another reason why it's very interesting because the least valued positions usually in the draft are the best positions in this year's draft. So that's just part of another reason that it's going to be interesting to see where Warren and Loveland go. Cam Ward, I'm kind of interested to see that he has him this high and kind of rising up the board. He's pretty much the guaranteed number one overall pick at this point in this draft. And with him, no matter what team, it's probably the Titans are going to stick and take him at number one. But no matter what happens if they trade it out, Cam Ward's going to be the number one overall pick no matter what, pretty much. So it's just his playmaking ability. He does need to cut down the turnovers, but he's going to be a very good quarterback one day. Jahai Campbell, here's another one that it's just weird to see it because you could see him going top 10. Maybe he goes nine to the Saints, like his ranking here, number nine. Maybe he goes nine to the Saints. Maybe he goes 19 to the Buccaneers in that area. And then moved on to number 10 prospect is Will Campbell. Will Campbell's, I'm not the biggest fan of him. I don't think that he could play guard. He plays with such a high pad level that I don't necessarily think that he could be able to move in and play guard necessarily. I think he's definitely going to have to stick at tackle with whatever team ends up taking him. And Will Campbell, he's just not very explosive. He ends up getting stalemated at the line of scrimmage. Yes, he does have decent footwork, but he gets beat on the inside, and most NFL teams really like him. I'm just me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of him. I don't think he's the best tackle in this class. I would think that he would fall down a little bit, but he could go number four to the Patriots if they're looking at him as a tackle. He could go to the Bears maybe if they want to add a rotational piece and backup option. There's a couple pieces in there. I'm just not the biggest Will Campbell fan. I would have him a little bit lower. Jahdae Barron's and one he's kind of moved up as the top corner. Will Johnson's kind of fallen down a lot of boards. Now the thing with Jahdae Barron though, him being number 11, he's gonna be more of a nickel slash slot corner guy. So it's one of those things that do you value a inside corner like that mostly compared to a outside boundary corner as well in Jahdae Barron. But it makes sense if the guy's that good and he has the speed to be able to cover it, then you're going to take him this high. But it's just more of a slot corner guy compared to a boundary corner guy with guys like Will Johnson and other places like that. And then moved on to another tackle in this class is Armand Membu. Armand Membu is probably one of my favorite tackles in this class. He just has that quick first step that you'd want in most of these guys. And most of the time with him in a zone scheme, that's really what you really want in the NFL nowadays. A lot of these teams end up running that wide zone scheme, and Armand Membu is the guy in there that's going to fit at that tackle spot to be able to run this. And he's very explosive. He ends up driving guys off the ball. Anytime Missouri wanted to run an outside zone, him playing right tackle, they would always run the zone to his side and that stretch play, and he would pretty much seal it off every single time with a guaranteed 4 or 5 yards. Marion Hampton, I think he's a lot closer to Genty than what people think. This makes sense to have Marion Hampton here. I think he could go number 10 to the Bears just because if Genty's off the board, they could need another running back in that case. So that makes sense as well. Will Johnson, it's kind of falling down the board as well because of his injury concerns, his speed. That's a lot of the end up concerns that a lot of people have. Nick Emenwari is another one that I think is going to go a lot higher than what people think. I think he could go all the way in the teens. I think he's pretty much solidified himself, as you see in these rankings, as the number one safety in this class. It was a guy that came in, he showed his athleticism at the combine, and he was able to show off pretty much that he is the most athletic safety. If you go back and look at his film, he's more of a box safety type guy that's going to be playing strong safety most of the time. But he's definitely going to be a difference maker on most teams that whatever team ends up picking him. And he's always going to be close to the action no matter where he is for whatever team. Matthew Golden could be the first receiver off the board. Same thing with Emeka Ibuka. You look at these two guys. A lot of these two guys have started to go over Ted McMillan. Ted McMillan's kind of started to fall a little bit. Golden could go to the Cowboys. Ibuka, a lot of the media is down on Ibuka, but guys like Jeremiah Mel Kiper pretty much guarantee that Emeka Ibuka is going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. But these guys are just playmakers. They came up big plays, and no matter what, pretty much, no matter what play they ended up needing to have in the college football, they were the ones that ended up having it. Same with Tedero McMillan, but he's more of the bigger body guys, 6'5", more of that Mike Evans type build, Drake London type build, freak athlete that a lot of teams are going to end up taking and like him. He's going to fall down the board a little bit to the Chargers, so, it's going to be that's where I have him in my mock draft usually, though. A team that's going to need a weapon in that case, so like a Tedero McMillan. Shador Sanders, it's it's really gonna be interesting if the McVay comment is actually real and the Giants don't take him and don't take quarterback at 3. Where is he gonna go? Because if you look at the possibilities, I would say the Saints maybe at number 9, but they could end up passing on him based on Derek Carr. So then the next logical option would be probably the Steelers at 21, and having Shador fall to the Steelers really would be an interesting aspect to it. Would a team end up trading up at that point? Maybe your Rams end up trading into the teams to be able to go and grab a quarterback to be able to learn under them. It's it's really gonna be interesting to see Shador Sanders and see how he is, and where he ends up going in this draft. Tyler Booker is one of my favorite offensive linemen in this class, and just looking at it, he is very good on the interior. I think he's the best guard by a mile. Him or Grace Abel, who actually hasn't shown up, but Booker is very consistent. He has the ideal size, and he's very good in the passing game. And along with the passing game that Daniel Jeremiah talks about here with his wide frame and base, one thing that I ended up finding whenever I went to his film study of Tyler Booker on my channel, if you haven't watched that, go and watch it. But one of the things I ended up figuring out with Tyler Booker was how good of a run blocker he is. He gets tons of movement in there on that front offensive line and that gap to be able to create the movement that you need, and to be able to run straight behind him that Alabama used all the time. He did a great job of working up to the second level as well to be able to go and attack certain linebackers and to be able to seal off the second level. Mike Green was one of the most productive people in college football. I think somewhere to the Bengals would be a nice fit for him to be alongside Trey Hendrickson. He showed off at the Senior Bowl. He ended up beating a lot of those guys and being able to kill a lot of those guys during practice. And he was the most productive player in college football with the most sacks and tackles for losses. Michael Williams is another one that has all the tools possible. You know, he's kind of started to fall down the board a little bit recently over the last 2 weeks, but with all the tools that he has to be able to put it into action, if you can develop all those tools, even though the production is not there, he could be a very good edge player, kind of like similar to a Trayvon Walker from a couple years ago. It is interesting to see Derek Harmon this high over Walter Nolan. There was a kind of a report that maybe the Jaguars could consider Walter Nolan at 5, which would be insanely high to be able to take him. But Derek Harmon's kind of started to rise up board. He's very quick from the defensive tackle spot. He's mostly able to get after the quarterback on most pass rushing opportunities, and he's able to be able to use his instincts to be able to get after the ball and show different elite traits to be able to benefit several NFL teams. Gray Zabel is another one. He's very valuable just because he can play all five positions of the offensive line. He can play center, guard, or tackle. I think mostly the Seahawks will be a great fit for Gray Zabel. You know, he could go in and play center right away. They didn't really spend big money in free agency on the offensive line. So Gray Zabel could end up being a great fit there. I think this is pretty good for him. And I'm going to try to say his name right 'cause I just recently learned it. Donovan Araku from Boston College around there. He has all the tools and he has the production to go with them. That's kind of the reason he's been rising up and has been a kind of solidified first round guy recently, just because he has all those tools to be able to use and he also has production to go along with it on tape after having 16 and a half sacks in 2024. It's very interesting that he wasn't considered earlier and he's just recently kind of been rising up the board. And this is a guy that could go in the teens over Mike Green maybe. Definitely probably over James Pierce at this point. Speaking of James Pierce, his is mostly character issues. He didn't really have the most production. He didn't play every down like Ezraku did at Boston College. Pierce really he has all the physical traits that you would want. It's just that he has character concerns. He's a little bit lean. He's not as big, and he has the speed, but does he have the power to go on with that? As you can see in tape. So I'm just gonna go over the top 26 guys on his big board. If you want to look at it, you can go on NFL.com and see the rest of it. But please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agreed or disagree with that I talked about in here, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content that I'm gonna be putting out. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the ball. Now I never fumble. I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the